Welcome to Book Time with Ryan. I am Ryan, and today I'll be talking about Misalignment, the New Financial Order, and the Failure of Financial Regulation by Joel Seligman. My copy is signed to the Ryan, the best to Ryan. So that's pretty nice because you wouldn't want the worst or better with the best. My copy has taken a beating. Look at that. A little bit of water damage here. I tried to flatten it out, let it dry. Even the end paper is kind of ripping away a little bit here. Why? Well, this has taken me a long time. I started this book in May 5th, and I finished it yesterday, which was July 28th. Why did it take so long? It's a long book. It has 1,148 pages, and it's not, I would not describe it as a page turner per se. It's dry-ish. It's something I'm interested in, but it's not something where you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear what happened next, because this is history and recommendations for the future. Before I get to this, I have been out of town for a week. We went down to the Outer Banks and had a great time at the beach. It rained a little bit, but I really enjoy listening to storms. And we don't get storms like beach storms in the DC area. So it was nice to hear some thunder and see some lightning. And it's the first time we took our dog on a trip. She enjoyed the beach. A little too much. She ate so much sand that her poop was basically sand one day, which is disgusting. Maybe that's some kind of cleansing routine. I don't know. While we were there, we went to Coast Guard Air Station, Elizabeth City, where my classmate Cal showed me and Noelia around, which was really cool. And then on our way back, we went by, and we've gone by this place a few times, every time we go to the Outer Banks, the Museum for Gravedigger. What is Gravedigger? Well, for people who aren't aware, there are these trucks with giant wheels, and they go to monster jams, and they drive up on cars, and they fly through the air, and it's crazy stuff. So about 20 years ago, a bunch of my classmates went to watch Monster Jam in Hartford, Connecticut, and I went. And I think the most famous monster truck is Gravedigger. And it was. So we went by Gravedigger's museum, and we were like, you know what? Why don't we stop? So Nellie and I went in to see Gravedigger. I went to the museum. I got a shirt. That's Gravedigger. I got a hat. It's kind of hairy now, but this is my hat, my Gravedigger hat. And the guy, Dennis Anderson, who's the Gravedigger creator, was there. We just got lucky. He was there picking up his grandson, and he was talking to some people in the museum. And it's a small museum. And I got a picture with him. So here's my picture with the Gravedigger guy, Dennis Anderson. That's pretty cool. And then we came back. So we had a good time, really good time. It was a bit of a drive, but I read not most of this book. I read a lot of this book while I was on vacation. Part of the reason that I think it's in such bad shape was this is not the kind of book that's really great for being on a beach. It's heavy, it's clunky, it's thick, and it's really hard to hold that on a beach. And it got a little bit of water on it too for my daughter, but I finished it. Before I talk about the book, last night, Washington Freedom won the Major League Cricket Championship in the United States. Congratulations to Washington Freedom. my Major League Cricket team, they destroyed San Francisco Unicorns, and they were dominant all season, but they really left no doubt in the championship game. All right, Misalignment. This was published in 2020. Oh, I thought it was more recent than that. 2020. I'm not going to go over the recommendations. I'm just going to kind of go over the structure of the book. I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. Very informative. Joel Seligman is really the expert of securities law, history, some financial history, and just it really shows in this book. It really starts, and I'll kind of read the sections of it. I mentioned that it was signed. Obviously, that means, well, I guess it's not obvious, but I met Joel. I met his wife. Great people, very nice. I have him sign all my books that I have of his. The longest one I've read of his is The Transformation of Wall Street, which is really about the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that book was last published in 2003. And I had written Joel Seligman, Professor Seligman, asking him if there was anything more recent. 2003 covered the 2002 Sarbanes-Oxley Act, but there's been a lot in the last 21 years since that was published, and I was wondering if there's anything more recent, and he told me about this book. So it was great to get something that's much more recent. And it covered some of the same ground. It also covered a lot more agencies. So these are the table of contents. Meltdown, Financial Debacle, 2007 to 2009. That's the most recent major meltdown. Chapter 2 was Before the New Deal. Chapter 3 was the New Deal Revolution, which was with FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and a number of agencies. But the Before the New Deal covers some of the banking regulation. The New Deal Revolution really covers more of the securities regulation and some updates to banking. The deterioration of the New Deal model, which really covers everything after the New Deal. Really kind of World War II on. Number 5, the porousness of securities and insurance regulation and the consolidation of the new financial order. And the last chapter, a new financial regulatory model for the 21st century. So I'm not going to go over what all of that is, but I think it's safe to say that the two major players in this book for banking was the Federal Reserve, and for securities or market regulation is the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. He also discusses other regulators and kind of splits the chapters between banking regulation and other financial regulation. A lot of that's market regulation. So he'll go over, the pre-Fed systems with the First and Second Bank of the United States, the Department of the Treasury, within the Department of the Treasury, the Independent Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Then you get to 1913, which is really kind of in response to the 1907 meltdown, the creation of the Federal Reserve System, and then there's some modifications to that. Then you go to the New Deal, and you get the kind of the response to a lot of things that happened in the Great Depression and the market crash of 1929. In 33, you get the creation of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC. You also get in 34 the creation of the SEC. And the rest of the book is really discussing the ups and downs and changes. It's really kind of a process of those agencies becoming stronger and then becoming weaker and becoming stronger and weaker, and the different disasters that kind of happen along the way that change the shape of the agencies that he discusses. And eventually you'll have other agencies like the National Credit Union Administration, NCUA, CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFTC, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which often is mislabeled Commodities Futures Trading Commission or Commodity Future Trading Commissions. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC. What else? Am I missing any other? Federal Housing Finance Agency. I hope I'm not forgetting an agency here. Fed, SEC, FDIC, NCUA, OCC, CFTC, CFPB, FHFA. And then there are some agencies that no longer exist. The Office of Thrift Supervision, some of the savings and loan agencies. So you get this look into the difference between federal and state regulation, how the banking regulators and the finance regulators have changed over the years. I told you that the transformation of Wall Street ended with the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. This does not end with the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010, but it's pretty close. There's more recent references, but the major legislation that it ends with was Dodd-Frank, and then later some not as prominent legislation in 2015 and 2018. I enjoyed it. I think it's very interesting. I enjoyed parts of it more than others, especially the kind of the market regulation stuff. The book ends with recommendations, kind of discussing what Joel Seligman believes were the shortcomings of the Dodd-Frank Act, which was the legislation that was a response to the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis. So it was passed in 2010, really along party lines. And some things Joel thinks were right, and some things he thinks didn't go far enough or didn't address issues the way he thought they should be. So the final kind of chapter, really goes into Joel's recommendations. He also talks about other recommendations from different studies or different groups, and some of them have overlapping recommendations, and then he basically gives his final recommendation, his estimate of what needs to change at the end, and that's where you're left. It's a dry subject. Some people really enjoy it. I do. I enjoy it. Some people don't. This is not something that if you have no idea what it's talking about, you're probably going to pick it up and really turn the pages quickly. I enjoy it, and it took me a while. There were also other things going on in my life. It's not just that I'm a super slow reader, but when you have a book this size, it's really, you can't just pick it up anytime you want, because you can't just carry it around in your, there's a pocketbook. I don't have a pocketbook. You just can't carry it around easily. And kind of what I said at the beginning is, it's not something where you wake up and you're like, I wonder what happened, because in some ways you already know what happened. It's really the details that make this more interesting, more exciting. And Joel has a firm grasp of the details. I think the only thing that I thought could be better with it was the copy editing. And I don't know how extensive editing is done by Walters Kluwer, which is really more of a legal kind of academic publisher. There were just times where it was very clear there was a typo here, a typo there, something mislabeled. The reason that it concerns me when it's a nonfiction book in finance is if there are issues with the words, are there any issues with the numbers? In the grand scheme of things, not a big deal, because I'm not basing anything off of the numbers in the book. But, there are times where you're like, is this 100 billion or is this 10 billion? I don't have those questions. Really, it's just, if there are typos with words, are there typos in the numbers department? And I think maybe more thorough copy editing could hit some of that, but I just don't know the extent of that happened. There are some regulators that are frequently mislabeled. There are acts of Congress that are frequently mislabeled, and not in this book, but in general. And sometimes you see that in books too. So, pretty minor issue in the grand scheme of a 1,148 page book, but very thorough. And listening to Joel Seligman speak was even more of a treat. He really knows the stories, knows the history, knows the background of the history. It was a real treat to be able to talk to him and listen to him, and then have him sign my book and my other books and read this book. I tried to read this book before I met him, and I was probably, I don't know, a couple hundred pages into it. Really, I started too late, but I'm done now. I finished it, and it was a good book. So thanks for being here today. I know it's been a while. I have a couple other videos that I've kind of lined up that I haven't filmed yet, but that I wanted to do before I went on vacation. I almost did the mid-year freakout tag. I did the thumbnail for it, and then just ran out of time getting ready for vacation. And then I also am going to have a video about my Sumar collection, which is going to be a little more in depth than the last one I did. So stay tuned for those, and I will start reading other books that are shorter and probably going to be faster for me. But thanks for sticking around and being patient with my absence. If you were aware that I was kind of absent, it was really lots of things going on and a long book that I was reading. And now I will be reading shorter books for a little while. So thanks for being here today. I will talk to you later. Go Washington Freedom and go Grave Digger.